welcome to the New Orleans Game Dev Meetup of March 2022. I am Calder, one of your organizers. With me is Danny Miller, and we're going to have a fun little announcement for you in just a little bit. But first, regular announcements. So, normal stuff. If you are new to the meetup, we got a big old wonderful QR code here. Scan in. We have one of these every third Thursday here at the Sea Cave, pretty much. It's hosted virtually as well, so if you don't want to be around, that's fine. But we got a whole group of fine individuals here if you also want to meet up, have a drink, have some food, all ages. Everyone's available. We also have a hack night every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on our Discord. Literally just show up. All we do is hang out, maybe work on stuff, maybe just talk about silly things. Not a big deal. We have seasonal game jams. Next one's probably going to come up in May. We also have a show and tell meetup that's been getting a lot of traction. Every Wednesday, we just come into here again, hook up an HDMI, and show off whatever we're working on, games or otherwise. It's been fun. We also help each other sort of, I guess, debug there is what we did last time, really. But I don't know. It's good stuff. We got a lot of stuff these days. Anyways, the reason I'm here, not Curtis, is because we're going to first introduce this and then go into an interview. We have a new idea. We've talked about it a little bit, about a sort of monthly art contest. And while we're talking about this, the man to the right of me, Danny Miller, thought of this wonderful idea. We're going to call it tentatively the Exquisite Comic. Next slide. Oh, it just went backwards for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, Exquisite Comic. What is the Exquisite Comic? It is essentially an exquisite corpse. If you guys know what it is, it's a writing thing where one person writes a sentence and then another person writes the next sentence, and from there you just keep writing on each other's thing and try to make an interesting whole through a lot of different authors. However, we're doing something a little bit differently. We're going to be using sort of a comic front end, and it's going to be a multimedia choose your own adventure comic where we encourage anyone to contribute to these sort of branching story paths in any art form they really want to. We're going to be developing it in-house, and if y'all want to help out, just get in touch. But next slide. So you probably looked at that big old weird pentagram thing. This is essentially how the structure will work. If you look in the middle, we're going to have a seasonal meetup at sort of like the jams, and these are going to be part of a super show and tell, and we're going to go through just basically what we want to do. Everyone's going to write a first panel of a comic book, right? And it can be on anything. We'll probably provide pins, paper, etc. And you'll just sort of have a napkin drawing and draw whatever you want. And from there, you'll also have two sort of branching paths. They can be dialogue choices. They can be prompts. They can be whatever. You don't have to be married to these images. They can be a napkin drawing. You can come back and make them nice later. From there, us on staff are going to look at the bajillions we might have from that and pick 4 or 5 that we're going to use as initial pages going forwards. And these are all going to be added onto a database that people can iterate on. Next slide. And so that initial page will be something like that, right? It'll be a image, a prompt, and 2 choices. From there, you can submit what you would think that next prompt would look like. So if you look over there in the diagram, there's the red path where you would draw the image corresponding to the red prompt, along with 2 prompts of your own for the next person to do, and so on and so forth. Or you could do the white path, same thing, so on and so forth. As soon as someone submits one thing for a path, we'll sort of unlock that course, and you can do the prompt for the next thing. You can submit literally anything. Photography is fine, fine art is fine, a doodle is fine, film is fine. If you want to submit a song, who cares? That's fine. Literally, we just want as much multimedia stuff as we can. We think that this could be a really fun platform to just make really strange and interesting stuff on sort of the idea of a choose-your-own-adventure narrative.
And I just want to emphasize again that there is no base skill level or quality of artwork. Whatever you feel you want to give, we'll take.
Yeah. It could be a drawing on a napkin. It could be your masterpiece.
Yeah, both are equally valid to me and us.
And monthly, we're going to have super show and tells from now on, where we're going to go over the submissions to these things. We're going to share what we've made and potentially give out light little prizes. It can be something like free food, or it can be maybe a monthly membership to CK. We're still sort of ironing that out. course, there's complications to this idea. It's pretty open-ended. So you got one more? Oh, wait, go back. I think it, yeah. So maybe you make, two people are working on the same sort of prompt at the same time. That's totally okay. We'll just kind of treat it as an alternate reality. So there'll just be a fork at that path. You can pick maybe Danny's submission or you can pick my submission and go from there. There's really no big deal on whether or not that matters. Don't worry about it on our end. We got a 501c3 status. We have cheaper server rates than you would imagine. We'll have all that stuff sort of imagined out. It'll be a problem for us to solve, not for y'all, and we'll try to get as much of that solved as we can. If you can get to work on a computer somehow, we're going to show it. That means if you have a sculpture or, like, I don't know, a literal play, as long as you can give us a video of it, we don't care. And if all of this seems like it's really ambitious, if you want to help out, we got a couple people working on it, but we'd probably be happy with a couple more. Just get in contact with one of the organizers, and we'll be happy to accommodate. Oh, the organizers is Curtis, me, Chris. Jesus Christ. How am I forgetting your name? I've known Ben for a very long time. This is weird presentation, Jers. This is embarrassing. Like, I literally thought, like, you're going to forget someone's name. And then, like, of course, my brain sabotages me. Rad. Yeah, no, I will. Anyways, let's keep going. Jesus Christ, I can't believe that. Anyways, so we're shooting to have a prototype ready at the end of the month at our Super Show and Tell. Whether or not that happens, we'll still have something to sort of accommodate submissions for the initial pages. We thought of this idea. We're really kind of stoked about it. It's also kind of the idea that you can add as submissions later on. If you see an image you like and you want to add a soundtrack to it, we'll have something for that. We like the idea of music being a bigger part of NOGD, and we haven't really found a good way to accommodate it. This seems like something we can do. You can submit as a team. You can submit as an individual. We don't really care. As long as something gets up there, we don't care. Submissions are subject to the refusal of our code of conduct, and mostly that. If you submit something truly, like, offensive, heinous, otherwise terrible, you know, not only will that be something that definitely gets denied, but if it's particularly cruel, you'll also be subject to the sort of code of conduct punishments that we have therein. Not to say that, like, this has to be super PC or friendly. It is mostly saying that, like, I don't know, you know when something is truly hurtful to someone, don't submit that stuff. Okay. Again, we talked about earlier, effort is an arbitrary thing. You can make a napkin drawing. It can be the most hardcore thing you ever worked on. They're both equally valuable in our eyes. It's going to be on display here at the CCAP. I think we're probably going to have an online component as well. The software we plan to make open source, and any suggestions to this idea are totally encouraged. And that's it. We're going to transition into the next thing. If you guys want to talk about it, we'll probably have a little fancy section on the Discord about it. I'll be available pretty much all the time. I'm Calder, and we'll have some flyers available and just post them everywhere. Anyways, on to the next part.
Yeah, we can do whatever y'all want. Keep it casual. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Pizwiz, also known as Alessandro. This is our guest here for the meetup this month, Zach Marvin. He's done some really cool YouTube videos showing the development of his game on the Discord, so check those out. And he's here today to show off some of the stuff he's been working on.
Yep. So, like you said, I'm Zach Marvin, and we'll just have a conversation, keep it casual.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of give you a brief introduction about who I am, my experience, and then I'll talk about my game, and we can take any questions after that.
Cool.
So, yeah, like I said, I'm Zach Marvin. I'm 27 years old. I graduated in 2012 from St. Martin. That's in the Biloxi area. I did a semester of college after that for criminal justice, and then realized college is expensive, and so I decided maybe I'll join the military instead. And there's two ways you can join the military. You can kind of go in and tell them to like give you a job, or you can just say, send me in as fast as you can. I'll take whatever job you want. And that's what I did. And so they stuck me in IT, and I got into technical training, and I was like, I'm Geek Squad for the Air Force. And so I was pretty pissed off because I didn't really know anything about computers or anything like that. But it actually turned out to be a pretty cool job. While I was in training is when I first started doing any sort of software development. I learned Python, very little bit of Python, and I created a snake game with my girlfriend's head on it. And she was eating hearts and chocolates, and she would get bigger as the game went on. So it was pretty cool. It was the first time I really dabbled into software development. And then throughout my Air Force career, I went on to get a degree. And I realized maybe instead of doing IT, I would want to do software development. So I got out of the Air Force in 2018. Now I'm only in the reserves. And got a job at NASA doing software development there. I create like maps, geospatial stuff. And then shortly after that, I started working for the Army Corps of Engineers, doing the same thing. But I didn't really start doing game development until I was in Hawaii. Back in 2016, I bought a MacBook, and I wanted to create an iOS game and release it on the App Store. So I learned Swift, and I learned Sprite Kit, Scene Kit, and Game Kit, which is like Apple's game-making frameworks. And I spent like 2 months making my first little app, and I made like a little space shooter. You're a little rocket ship. It's called Dodge It Rocket. And you tap the left and right side of the screen to dodge asteroids and collect gold and get gas and stuff like that. And you just try to get as high of a score as you can get. It was pretty cool, but I think that's what really gave me the itch for game development. So ever since then, I've been creating little prototypes. And I think in 2018, I actually came here for the first Global Game Jam. And I created a little space game where basically, I think the theme was repair, and you had to repair your spaceship and get your crew members in the spaceship and send them off back to Earth. And the whole time you're like shooting at these little blobs of aliens coming at you. And I actually got the award for the best audio because I had these crazy little screams and whenever you were carrying your guy to the spaceship. So that was pretty cool. And since then, I've probably done like 8 or 9 different game jams. It's just a really fun way to get a quick idea and just explore a new type of game development that you haven't done before. But I haven't really worked on a long commercial project until the past like 6 months. I came up with the idea of making a game. Nanoplanet is the game I'm working on. Yep, that's my YouTube right there. But basically, it's like Stardew Valley, if you've ever played that. It's like a top-down pixel art farming sim, life sim game. And instead of taking over your grandfather's farm and planting plants to kind of go against the monopoly of the grocery store or whatever like it is in Stardew Valley, you're going to a new planet because Earth wasn't habitable due to climate change. And you're supposed to be landing on a habitable planet, but you find out it's actually not that habitable. So you have to like plant plants and basically terraform the planet to get the oxygen levels back up so that humankind can live on that planet. So it's kind of a neat little twist on like the farming sim type game, and it gives me the creative freedom to like make alien animals and just do really weird, wacky stuff with the game. So I'm pretty excited about it. I started making a YouTube channel about 2 months ago where I'm posting like monthly devlogs, and then every week I try to post like a short on the game, which is like a 60-second video. I also post TikToks about it. But it's pretty cool because it's like a space farming sim. So instead of chopping things down with like a pick and stuff, you slice it with your lightsaber, shoot it with blasters, and then you got this little biodome that when you enter the biodome, you gotta like open the airlock, you step inside, close the airlock behind you, take off your spacesuit, walk in, and then that's where you can start planning stuff. And there's like character creation. I've worked on like save systems, all kinds of stuff. So pretty excited with how it's coming along.
Yeah. Okay, that's all super interesting. I mean, I went into this blind, so I didn't know a lot about you. It's super interesting that you came from the military.
Yeah.
Did you play a lot of games while you were in service? Or?
Yeah, actually. So growing up, I really just stuck to like Call of Duty, and then I joined the military. And being an IT career field in the military, you're kind of in with all the gamers, and so I really got introduced to gaming as like a culture almost. Played all World of Warcraft, League of Legends, all these obscure indie games. So that's what really kind of opened me up to it. Because before the military, I never really thought about game development as a career or software development. Honestly, I didn't even really know much about it. So, yeah, I definitely played a lot of games in the military.
That's super interesting. And what would you say your first, because, going from Call of Duty to a farming sim is pretty crazy. What was your first, like, experience playing, like, a farming simulator or a game that isn't, just an action-based shooter?
I don't know how I got introduced into, like, Stardew Valley, but I think what got me hooked on it is it's a very approachable game, and my wife, I was able to get her hooked on it. She actually plays it more than I do now. But so I thought it was a cool way for me to game and then also get her involved in my hobby at the time. And then I seek out games like that, like Forager, and other indie. Littlewood is another one, a lot like Stardew Valley.
Another great game, yeah.
Yeah. So I try to find games like that so that we can both play them and kind of bond on that. So
Wow.
it really stuck with me.
Wow, that's super interesting. And what made you? I mean, is it because of this bond you had with your girlfriend that made you want to create your own, or what made you want to make that sort of farming simulator type of game and not something else?
Well, I think it'd be cool to make like another Call of Duty one day, but that obviously takes a studio and millions of dollars and
Right.
whatnot. So realistically, when you're looking at YouTube videos and researching how to be a successful indie developer, the simpler the better. And going from 3D to 2D makes things simple. Going from 2D vector art to pixel art makes things even more simple. And what are some of the most successful pixel art indie games? Stardew Valley was one
Right.
guy.
Yeah.
Forager, Littlewood, those are all one person making an indie game. So I figured if I want to make this a career or even just like a successful hobby,
Right.
the best route is to start simple, build my skills up, don't overscope, and I think
Right.
all those things are achievable with a 2D pixel art game. So
Right. And the game is looking fantastic, by the way.
Thanks,
I do
thanks.
love it. I do love it. And again, I encourage everyone to go check out his YouTube channel. He has a great devlog where he sort of shows all the steps he goes through to create the game, and it's definitely super good if you're trying to get into game development to watch those videos.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll try to like put the links in the Twitch or something. While we're going. Sweet. Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're creating this game now. What do you think what are your final goals with this game? How far are you in the development?
So I started working on it like 6 months ago, and I drew a ton of art. I feel like that's how most people say don't draw the art because then if you give up on the game, then you just wasted
Right.
all that time on art. But I get really motivated when I have like a visually appealing thing to work on. So I drew a lot of the concept art first, and that was like 6 months ago. Then I started implementing the top-down game like I'm doing right now. And then the code got a little spaghetti code when I added like save systems, inventory systems. So I was like, you know what, I'm scratching this new project. So over Halloween, I made like a zombie top-down Diablo, but for like zombies. And I made a little prototype. There's a demo on my itch.io. It's pretty cool. You can like pick up different rarity of guns and stuff. But I don't think like haunted or dark style games fit me very well. So I eventually scratched that. I was like, I'm going back to my Nano Planet game, but maybe I should do 3D. And so I tried out a 3D idea, tried my hand at Blender, which is a 3D editing software. I was like, this is a lot of work. I have a lot more to learn on this before I'm ever going to be able to make anything worth playing. So I was like, you know what, let's do 2.5D. So then I started that. And there's all kinds of quirks with doing a 2.5D game because it's 2.5D. The game engine's either for 3D or 2D. You got to do all these little tricks to get the sprite to always face you. I think it's called billboarding, and just a bunch of little nuances with 2.5D. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back down to 2D just like I did a few months ago, and I'm going to implement the architecture the right way, no spaghetti code, really do things the proper way, and try to stick with it for more than a couple months. So I think back in January is when I started that back up, and Since then, I mean, I've already caught up to where I was a few months ago and surpassed that. I've added like character creation. I told you I added like lightsabers, ray sabers. There's like almost 30 different types of crops that you can harvest. There's biodomes in there. The initial tile set, the save systems, and right now I'm working on like animal AI. So I want the AI for the animals to be not just like wander over here for a few seconds, stay still, wander over here for a few seconds. So I was really looking into that the past couple weeks. And the way you want to do that is you want to have like priorities. The AI should have priorities. And the number one priority should be fight or flight. If there's another animal around you that can kill that animal, you should just take off running regardless if you're hungry, thirsty, or trying to find like a mate. So that's the number one priority, fight or flight. After that, you want to program it to search for water. And then if it's not thirsty, then maybe look for food if it's hungry. If it's not hungry, thirsty, and there's no other animals nearby it that can harm it, maybe you look for animals of the same species and you kind of herd those animals together. And then if there's no animals even of the same species around, then you just wander aimlessly. So that's kind of something I've been working on, probably something I'll talk about in my next devlog.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, so that's pretty much how far I've gotten so far with this game.
Yeah, as someone who's, all this, you're still relatively new to game development. You're really taking this new project very seriously. But since it's all very fresh in your mind, what's some advice you can give to someone who is thinking about starting game development and who does want to start their first big project?
Well, maybe not so much about starting your first big project, but I think a good way to approach indie development is you learn a very valuable skill doing game development, and that's programming. And a lot of people have the idea like, I'm going to learn programming on the side, and then once I've saved up enough money, I'm just going to go 100% indie dev. And you see it all the time on YouTube. They're like, after this devlog, I'm going to be 100% indie dev, and I have a year to make my game. And it's like, well, if your game's not successful or it takes you longer than a year, you've ran out of savings and you got to go get a job again. So I think a good idea is leverage the skills you learn from game development, and that's kind of what I did, to get a career in a related field like software development. And so I do web development because I learned game development. And I think that's a good way to approach indie development, because then it's kind of twofold. In your professional job, you're learning how to be a better developer. And in your hobby, you're learning how to be a better developer. And so either way, you're kind of boosting yourself up and setting yourself up for success as you chase that indie dream of either releasing a successful game or joining a game studio one day. So I think, yeah, that's probably what I would recommend as advice. Try to just use those skills you earn as a game developer, to make a lucrative career out of, to fund your hobby, and eventually one day just have enough money or release a successful game so that you can just work on video games. Like, for example, I actually just got a job for a company out of Los Angeles. It's just a part-time job, contract work, but they use the web development software that I use. It's called Esri. It's a mapping geospatial software. They use that and they plug it into Unity, and they build advanced simulations using real geospatial data. For example, they fly drones over the Super Bowl. They did it this year. This company flew drones over the Super Bowl, mapped out the Super Bowl in real 3D space, and then they hired someone in Unity to pull that data into Unity, put little NPCs, thousands of them, like there's people watching the game in the stadium, program them to go towards the exits. So if there's a fire here, they can run a simulation and see how fast can people get out, where are the bottlenecks and stuff like that. And so I thought landing this part-time job was a really cool way to merge my professional career and my indie dev dream and get me one step closer to just making video games for a living. So
Very
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Very cool. Yeah. I'd have to think of another question, but let's move it to. Does anyone else have a question?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, we got some questions out
What
here. Here,
up?
look, let me pass. Do you want to? Okay, I'll just hear it from here. Yeah.
yeah. I guess for the people on Twitch, if you couldn't hear, the question was, what's the plan for audio design in the future? And honestly, that's not my least favorite, but definitely my worst part of indie development. I just get on GarageBand and try to make something that sounds good. I'm not very talented with audio at all. Trying to talk my wife into doing it for me because she plays guitar and her whole family's very musically talented, and so maybe I can get some free audio from her. But yeah,
So-
but I don't know. That's honestly the hardest part. When I think long term of like releasing my own game 100% on my own, audio is probably the biggest crutch, the weakest link in it. So
Did I
yeah, but that was because it was funny.
did I hear you won best soundtrack on the Global Game Jam?
I wouldn't say soundtrack, maybe sound effect. It was just this guy screaming very obnoxiously.
And that won you best soundtrack. Okay,
Yeah.
I'd have to
It
listen to
was
that. That's
funny.
very curious.
It's on my itch, the game. You can play it.
What's it called for the people at home?
I think my itch.io/zmarvin is the link. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I think Ben also had a question.
Yeah. Yep. I guess again, so yeah, the question was I had spaghetti code before, and how have I learned to not have spaghetti code this time, basically. And that was like only like 6 months ago, and I think it was more so just like I had this really passionate idea, and I was just trying to throw features on there. I'd never done a save system, I'd never done an inventory system, so I was like, let me just try my hand at it and do whatever works. And once I got it working, I would just go on to the next feature. And I've only learned for 6 months since then, so I can't say like I got like a whole lot of new knowledge in game development, but I don't have to think like, can I do it this time? So I can look up the proper way and get deeper into these tutorials, Udemy tutorials, YouTube tutorials, and just different internet resources to find the proper way to implement these systems, so that a month down the road I'm not like, this isn't scalable at all. Like, so I guess I just tried to put more thought into it this time versus just throwing it together like I would do. Yeah, and definitely the same strategy going forward, but it's kind of hard because you don't know what you don't know. So I think I'm doing it the proper way, and then a month or two down the road, I'm going to have to refactor my code because it's not scalable. So I just try my best to, really research the proper way to do things. So. I salvaged all the art from the original version, and I don't think I had copy and pasted any code. I probably could have, but I kind of just used it as a reference for like basic stuff. And I probably could have salvaged more than I did, but I kind of like coding, so I just did it again.
Well, cool. Yeah. We have one more question.
I think even if I work in a game studio, I'll probably have an indie project to work on, just because it literally is my hobby. I get off work at 4, my kid goes to bed at 7:30, and then I'm programming until bed, or until my wife tells me to get out of the office. So I think no matter what, I'll probably work on my own games, but I think it would be really cool to work for a studio and get paid to do what I love doing. So well, if I'm working 80 hours a week, I probably won't be working in that studio very long. Yeah, that's the thing about game development, and kind of goes back into what I was talking about earlier. Is like, I really encourage doing the professional side because you get paid more. The hours are going to be better. The trade-off is you're not doing what you love, but you're still getting better at what you love because you're still learning programming practices and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm definitely trying to get into the gaming sector through a gaming studio, but I'm not in a particular rush because of my professional career. So
Well, cool. I just thought of another question. You talked about scope earlier. What I see this as a big problem with a lot of solo devs. What do you think? How can someone who's just starting, who wants to do like a big project, how can they tell if their scope is too big or too small?
Well, your scope is too big. Like, that's the answer. Your scope is more than likely too big. Unless you're making Pong as your first game, you're probably biting off too much more than you can handle. I'd say don't make your first game your dream game or your big RPG, MMORPG idea. I think a common theme is a lot of people make like simple platformers as their first one of their first games or first big projects, because platformers, unless you have hundreds of levels or whatever, it's usually kind of smaller scoped. So just don't expect to make that MMORPG on your first game. You want to go for a smaller genre in general, kind of get your feet wet, understand how programming works. Like I mentioned before, you're going to have spaghetti code. You're going to have to refactor. You're going to learn the better ways to do things. So it's good to do a bunch of little projects or even game jams. I think that's a great use for game jams, is to really just explore a bunch of different game development features and kind of learn the best practices, or even just in general, how would I even implement a 3D game? I've never done a 3D game before. This game jam, I'm going to do a 3D game. You can't overscope. I mean, you can, but at the end of the day, it's like a 2-day jam, and you either did it or you didn't do it. So it's not that bad if you overscoped. So yeah, I guess if you're wondering if you're overscoping, the answer is probably yes in general. Try to keep things as simple as possible. And then there's a term out there, minimum viable product, MVP. Try to get an MVP, just the bare bones of your game. What do you need in this game to make it complete, fun, and playable without all the extra features? And that's probably a good way to approach it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic advice. Yeah, did we have any other questions? Anything else?
Well, I had a question for you. What are you working on right now?
What am I working on?
I always see you in the Discord. What are you working on?
Well, I'm working on a lot of things. Well, I'm working on getting a job right now. I'm actually in between work. So I haven't gotten to work on a lot of my smaller projects and things. I'm making a horror game, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but I have nothing to show for that yet. So that's just a mysterious horror game that I'm working on.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I look forward to seeing it in the Discord.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? And is our one viewer on Twitch got a question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know a couple people have their...
Yeah, I could have brought I didn't realize I would even have a screen to show it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I guess later. So eventually, there's gonna be quests. You come with a crew from planet Earth, and then you find out that, like I said, the planet's not as habitable. So you wake up your crew members from this like cryo chamber, kind of like you do in Interstellar, if you've ever seen that movie. Land on the planet, wake up your crew members, and then your crew members are gonna give you quests to like explore and replant and terraform the planet. In one of those quests, you're going to meet the native alien species. And if you've ever played No Man's Sky, they're not going to speak in English. And you're going to have to find kind of like artifacts throughout the planet, or maybe throughout with talking to them, to kind of learn the language and piece together what they're saying as you learn the different language. And then eventually... I guess I'll spoiler my idea to our 2 Twitch viewers. But when you finally get the planet habitable again, you find out, kind of like in Planet of the Apes, that it was actually Earth the whole time, and it was just a big like time warp, and your Earth like 1,000 years ahead. And the reason you can't and you can't understand the people talking, because they've evolved since then. And once you finally learn their language and the planet's habitable, they'll take off their little alien hoods, because right now they're going to look like little Jawas. That's going to be on the bottom left of the screen. They look like little Jawas from Star Wars. but they'll take off their hoods once you can talk to them and the planet is habitable, and you'll be able to like marry them, kind of like in Stardew Valley, because they're humans. They're just 1,000 years in the future. So then it's like once you beat the game, you unlock this whole new thing of like relationships and a whole new level of interaction with the NPCs. So I got a lot of ideas, but like we were saying, it's hard not to overscope. So maybe these ideas will make it in. Maybe it'll just end up being a really simple farming game on a cool planet. But that's kind of what my thought process is. So I'm excited about it, though. I
Cool.
love working on it. Yep, yeah, and that's one of my YouTube videos right there. I try to release them like the first week of the month. And that's the Discord. If you're not in it, you should join for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I know we have one ghost Twitch viewer who doesn't show up on the viewing thing, so shout out to him. And
I think we got someone from my wife's high school. He said he wanted to tune in. So
there we
if
go.
you're out there, join the Discord if you want to learn more about game development.
Well, cool. Yeah, I think that does it, huh?
Anything else? Good to go? Anybody want to close?
Yeah.
Hello. Oh, Jesus. Hello, this is the very sick, but not COVID sick Curtis. I sound like shit right now, which is why I wasn't the organizer or the MC or whatever. Thank you for joining us here in the New Orleans Game Dev Meetup. As always, we'll be here in the next third Thursday of the month. I don't know what day it is, but we'll have someone. Who do we have next month?
Oh, we might have 2 potential speakers. We have a speaker.
We have a speaker. We actually do have speakers planned out for the next few months.
Speakers lined up. Yeah.
We do actually know who it is. We just don't know who it is off the top of our head.
I'm not good with names, but
yeah, thank you for joining us. You can join our Discord, which there's a QR code in the earlier part of the stream. And there's a Discord link somewhere on the internet. It's in the description of the YouTube video.
yeah.
We'll be around next week for Hack Night.
And all of these are archived on our
Excuse me.
YouTube, on our...
Yeah. And next Wednesday, Super Show and Tell.
I think it's the Wednesday after that, the 27th.
Okay. Okay, well
there's
that's
5 Thursdays in this
Oh, that's true. Okay, so actually next Wednesday, I believe, is the IGDA meetup in Baton Rouge. So if you're in town, you should go to Baton Rouge, hang out with them. They have food sponsored by the LA Tech Park. The LA Tech Park doesn't sponsor food in New Orleans, so they should just call themselves the Baton Rouge Tech Park as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, potato. I'm sorry. That's a joke. But thank you for joining us. We'll be here next month. We'll be here next week. We'll be here until the end of time. We're timeless, ageless beings, and we live off your nightmares. Thank you for joining us.
All right, yeah, thanks for watching. Watch as I slowly and erratically just